When people go missing without explanation, it wreaks havoc on their families and loved ones, as there's often no closure to their cases. But in some missing person cases, the truth can be stranger than fiction, when unexpected twists lead to conclusions that were never considered while investigations were underway. Before we jump into everything though, I've got to let you know about an incredible new game I've been playing lately that I think you guys need to check out. Raid Shadow Legends is an awesome game, allowing you to fight millions of real-world players in the arena. You can also hone your skills to take down the Demon Lord, ascend the Doom Tower, or even crush the Ice Golem. There are hundreds of artifacts to collect and equip to help you along the way. What I love about this game is how simple it is to play, yet the battle will draw you in and have you hooked within the first 5 minutes. That just shows you don't need complicated controls and mechanics to have a great game. Once you jump in, you're going to want to get the best weekly rewards possible, and a great way to do that is by joining a clan and fighting off the clan boss. You can also quickly level up just by playing through the campaign. This month, Raid has got a lot going on, with heaps of summer events and activities. There are several special fusion events to take part in to get a brand new legendary champion. There are tons of tournaments to battle against other players, and so much more. There are also 5 new champions to choose from, and they all look incredible. On top of all this, there are several tough bosses in the game as well, including Lavelle, who can be particularly difficult. If you're looking to beat him, your best bet is to do your best to lower his defense by using characters such as Rosin, Stag Knight, or Zalgala. You could even use Spirit Host or Doom Priest to raise your own attack to counteract his insane defense. There's also Avila, a master of dark magic. She's one of the most difficult bosses in the game, and you're going to want to attack her with someone who can strip buffs. This will weaken her enough so that you can actually land a few decent punches until the match is finally won. If you want to play but also get a head start over your friends, click the link in the description and you'll get the epic hero named Chonoru, 200,000 silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and an ancient shard, so you can summon a new champion as soon as you get started. After signing up, you will find your extra rewards here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and download Raid Shadow Legends to see what all the talk is really about. Number 5. In May of 1977, Harold Lavelle left his home in Aurora, Illinois, after telling his family that he was heading out to look for a construction job. When he didn't return home that day, and for the next 34 years, his family would have no idea what happened to him or whether he was even still alive. Harold's younger sister, Teresa Hasselberg, and their brother, Tim, spent that time convinced that he was an unidentified victim of the well-known serial killer, John Wayne Gacy. Harold had regularly done some yard work for Gacy at the time of his disappearance, and he would later describe how Gacy had invited him to his house on several occasions, but he declined the offer. Teresa and Tim kept a scrapbook of Gacy's case over the years, after realizing that their brother perfectly fit the profile of his other victims. When Gacy's case was reopened in a bid to identify the victims who had not been attributed to his case, his nephew started an internet search. He came across a website called mugshots.com and searched for the name Harold Wayne Lavelle. Under a Hillsborough County booking photo, he discovered that a man who looked a lot like Harold had been arrested for possession of an illegal substance. Unbeknownst to Harold's family, he had traveled to Florida on the day of his disappearance, where he worked odd jobs in hotels and restaurants to get by. He decided to leave Illinois due to tension in the family home, and he would later state that he couldn't stay around the house any longer. For the last 34 years, he had no idea that his family presumed him to be a victim of Gacy's, nor that they were resigned to the fact that he had passed away. After a few phone calls, he undertook a 10-hour bus trip to Alabama from Tampa, Florida, where he had been staying, to be reunited with his remaining family members. Number 4. Joanne Risch's husband, Martin, got up early on the morning of the 24th of October, 1961, to catch a flight to New York for a business meeting. He would stay overnight in Manhattan, but would soon rush back home after learning from police that his wife had gone missing. Shortly after Martin left that day, Joanne took their son, David, across the street to a neighbor's house as she had a dentist appointment. Their daughter, Lillian, went with her, but stayed in their car during Joanne's appointment. After leaving the dentist office, Joanne took Lillian on a short shopping trip, during which time mail and milk were delivered to her house. Neither the milk or the mail delivery men reported seeing anything out of the ordinary at the house. After picking David up from the neighbors, she returned to her house at 11:15 a.m. Shortly after, a dry cleaner company's delivery vehicle arrived at her house to pick up a few of Martin's suits. He went inside while he was there and didn't notice anything strange. After he left, Joanne changed into her blue house dress, made lunch for the children, and put David to bed for a nap. The neighbor then brought her own son over to play with Lillian, and while she was there, noticed Joanne in the garden while she was pruning plants. At around 2 p.m., Joanne brought the children back to the neighbor's house, saying that she would be back to fetch them shortly. About 15 minutes later, the neighbors saw Joanne carrying something red from her car to the garage. This was the last time she was ever seen. 2 witnesses would describe seeing strange cars in the area that afternoon. One of the cars was described as dirty and two-tone, one of the colors being blue, and the other was seen backing out of the Risch's driveway. At 3:40 p.m., the neighbor needed to go shopping and took Lillian back to Joanne's house, leaving her there as she assumed Joanne was home. When she returned from her shopping trip at 4:15 p.m., Lillian ran over to her, saying Mommy is gone and the kitchen is covered with red paint. She immediately called police. When police arrived, they found that the kitchen was indeed covered in biological material, and that a table had been overturned. The wall-mounted telephone had been ripped off the wall and thrown into a wastebasket, but Joanne was nowhere to be found. Hospitals were told to be on the lookout for any patients matching Joanne's description that may be admitted, and Martin was informed that his wife was missing. When empty beer cans and an empty liquor bottle were found in the wastebasket, Martin explained that he and Joanne had finished the bottle the night before, but that he had no idea where the beer cans came from. Joanne was never found, but when a reporter went to the town's library to research similar cases, she found Joanne's name on one of the checkout cards. The book was entitled Into Thin Air, and she discovered that the plot was about a woman who disappears after leaving her house in the same state that Joanne's was found in. Number 3. Paige Rinkowski was last seen on the shoulder of a Livingston County expressway on the 24th of May, 1990. At around 11:30 that morning, she drove her mother to the Detroit Metropolitan Airport, after which she went to a friend's house in Canton, Michigan for a visit. She was later seen at a store in Canton, where she bought a beer between 2:30 and 2:45 p.m. The store's clerk clearly remembers seeing her, as she was dressed in a very distinctive pair of trousers and wore a very unique necklace. When she was last spotted, she was talking to a man who was standing next to a maroon-colored minivan on the shoulder of Interstate 96 near Fowlerville, Michigan. Many other witnesses described seeing her driving on the same road, and her vehicle was still idling with her shoes and purse still inside. Police found several fingerprints and palm prints on the vehicle, but they didn't match to anyone in their database, and the case went cold. In 1999, Lansing police were shocked when an anonymous tip containing a letter and a map detailing the exact location of Paige's remains was delivered to their house. The wooded area was thoroughly searched by the FBI, Livingston County Sheriff's Department, and forensic experts. But despite the mysterious clue, no trace of Paige has ever been found, and she remains a missing person to this day. Number 2. Lisa Ferris, a 25-year-old radiology student from Louisville, Alabama, was reported as a missing person by her father on the 23rd of July, 2017, 5 days after he had last heard from her. A local Walmart would later contact police to report that she had been seen in the store, but since there was no surveillance footage available, it was treated like a false alarm. Her family and friends were concerned for her safety, as she'd fallen in with a bad crowd in recent months. She was legally blind due to a recurring eye condition, and she suffered from bipolar disorder. 2 men who were last seen with Lisa were identified as Randall Wade Oswald, age 36, and Manley Green Davis, 31, both from the nearby town of Troy. Both men were well known to police, as they had been arrested on multiple occasions for petty crimes and illegal substance possession. Oswald, who worked as an air conditioning engineer, insisted that Davis was the last to see Lisa alive. Davis, on the other hand, insisted that Oswald was the last to have seen her, and when they were arrested for the robbery of a hunting lodge 40 miles away, each of the men had very different stories. Davis insisted that Lisa ran away as they were attempting to break down the lodge's gate by ramming it with their vehicle. Oswald, whose father manages the lodge, claimed that Davis ended her life and disposed of her in a nearby creek. Both men were under the influence of an illegal substance at the time, and police didn't know who to believe. But 20 days after disappearing, Lisa came stumbling out of the woods roughly a mile from the spot where she'd entered the tree line. She was covered in insect bites and scratches. She told police that she'd gotten lost and survived by eating berries, mushrooms, and drinking water from a small water source. She used a branch as a walking stick, and on one occasion had to squeeze water out of her hair to quench her thirst. Police believe that at the time of her disappearance, she was under the influence of a hallucinogenic drug, and that she became disoriented when she recovered, causing her to stumble around the woods for nearly a month before finding her way clear of the woods. Number 1. On the 25th of June, 1991, Eric Myers left his hometown in Arizona to travel to San Diego, where he was to attend a real estate seminar. Eric was married to his high school sweetheart, Anne, and the couple had 2 daughters. They also had a further 3 sons who they had adopted from Vietnam. Eric was working at his father's real estate business and was seemingly doing very well. But when Anne decided that she wanted to attend college, he felt that it clashed with his deeply religious idea of what a housewife should be. He scoured the Bible to find a reason for her to stay at home, but came up empty-handed and started feeling trapped. Their marriage had been going through a rough patch in recent times, and they discussed divorce, but Eric wanted to stay married due to his beliefs. When he didn't return from the training seminar as scheduled, he was reported as a missing person, and police suspected that foul play was involved in his disappearance, but they failed to find any proof. They did discover, however, that he checked out of the hotel that he was staying in on the first day of the seminar, yet he still attended meetings. After he'd been missing for 5 years and no clues as to his whereabouts were found, Eric was declared legally deceased in 1996. His family received $800,000 in life insurance, which they invested in a trust for their 2 daughters. 16 years after Eric's disappearance, his family started receiving strange emails asking whether they would be interested in knowing what happened to him. It would turn out that Eric was still very much alive, and the emails had been sent by him. He would later explain that prior to his disappearance, he'd been struggling with the fact that he was a homosexual. He told authorities that he was robbed on the last day of the conference and spent the night in a seedy hotel with just a few $100s in his pocket. The following morning, he crossed the border to Mexico and traveled to Cabo San Lucas. He decided to escape from his life for a while by relaxing on the area's beaches, and after traveling to Palm Springs, California, he met a Canadian tourist named Sean Lung, and the two men fell in love. They started a life together, and Eric would look for odd jobs that didn't require him to provide identification. He was reunited with his mother, brothers, and sisters, but his wife and children have stated that they will never forgive him for abandoning them. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.